interesting conversation so far.
Right.
And what I am saying is that from the time he started to speak, he gave a reason why there was separation of church and state in the First Amendment right. And he gave the impression that they made that separation of church and state because of the states having religion enforced so that they could decide what they wanted to do. He gave a reason for the separation of church and state amendment, he said. But what I had showed is that the separation of church and state was not a teaching of the founding fathers per se.
Okay.
The teaching was liberty of conscience. And that teaching of liberty of conscience, the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness,
Yes.
the teaching of liberty of conscience was what the First Amendment right meant, not separation of church and state. You see, separation of church and state is a statement that needs a definition because it could mean different things, rightly as the speaker said.
That is true.
So, the term separation of church and state must be defined. And everyone listening must take it clear, must get it clear that separation of church and state did not mean anything else but separation of religion and legislation.
Amen.
Notice what it says: Congress shall make no laws. Human beings don't make laws, so it is only Congress that makes the laws, not citizens. So Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The forbidden is Congress make no laws.
Mm-hmm.
And since the forbidden is Congress shall make no laws, the issue is legislation.
Right.
And the subject of the legislation is respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So really, it is the separation of religion and legislation.
Amen.
That's the meaning of the First Amendment right and must never be lost. Since the issue is liberty of conscience, then it was not left to the state to determine what they will do.
Right.
Because the federal constitution told them that no law must be made respecting an establishment of religion. Now, if they are to obey federal law, then they cannot have a state law exalting a religion with penalty.
And would you not say that that is why the experiments in certain states failed, Brother Medina?
Of course. Of course. In fact, it was those states also that were targeted when they were told not to make any laws respecting an establishment or prohibition of religion.
Amen.
They were told that because that, not making that, was the essence of liberty of conscience. So that when Jefferson later on came and spoke and showed a wall of separation, the term wall of separation didn't mean separation of church and state. It meant a blockade of religion and legislation. And that is why the Danbury Baptist was concerned that there would be religion being enforced at a certain time because they didn't really mean it. And he had to tell them, no, it's a wall of separation which means the wall of separation was a blockade between religion and legislation. So the word separation of church and state means a blockade between religion and legislation.
Amen.
That is what it really meant. So also we need to understand that if Adventist theologians would agree with separation of church and state, which was said by the opponent, the opponent already have an erroneous view of separation of church and state. He thinks it is meant to be left up to the state to determine what system they will have. No, the state is supposed to follow the federal law.
Correct.
It is not left up to the state. So for you to agree with them, with him, on separation of church and state is to agree with his erroneous ideas.
Wow.
But you are supposed to trust in God for higher learning and a higher understanding of the legislation so that you would show them or show him and others like him the real meaning of the legislation. But no, you agree with him. And by agreeing with him in your own intellectual consciousness, there will be stymied understandings with regards to religious liberty.
Wow.
So you have literally preconditioned your thinking by agreeing with him to a myriad amount of cunning deceptions that would come from that cunning thinker.
Yeah.
So it was wrong
Yes, brother.
to agree with them.